Good evening and welcome to the Spirit of Motorsport TV. This is Revved Up Live, and tonight we have one special guest for you. We're very excited to invite him onto the show. But before we bring him into the virtual studio, I just want to remind you this is an interactive show, so feel free to fire your questions our way. Any comments are welcome as well, and we'll do our very best to answer whatever questions you send over. So this evening we have the great Isle of Man photographer, Mr. Steve Babb. Now, Steve has recently released, after lockdown, he put together this virtual exhibition of some of his incredible work. And we recently come across it a few weeks ago and we're just blown away by it. So as soon as we could, and we could persuade him, we got him on the show. And here he is this evening to guide us through that amazing exhibition and talk about all the other great stuff that's going to be coming up as well soon. So, Mr. Steve Babb, welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much, Hayley.
No problem. Thank you for accepting our invitation. We're really excited.
To be honest, yeah, I mean, I've been loving watching the episodes with Billy and obviously the Roy stories and everything. It's fantastic. It's a little humbling and quite scary to be here, but yeah, I'm just pleased you like the pictures. See what we can do.
It's incredible. So we've obviously just finished the classic. So that's what the exhibition is based on. So the classic TT virtual exhibition. And we normally see you not only in the classic and the Manx Grand Prix, but also in the TT running around the paddock.
Running is a strong word for the way I move, but yeah. I'm very aerodynamic, designed in a wind tunnel and McDonald's.
Brilliant. We've got Mr. John Koszewski has joined us. He's a huge fan, obviously, and a friend of yours. Hi from America. Hey, John, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Great, Steve. So before we do get onto that exhibition, I do want to touch on a little bit about your story and how you come about being Mr. TT photographer, to be honest. If you are, I know you don't find it easy to listen to that. But we do want to talk about, you've got some great stories about growing up on the island, as we both have. It's a special place, and to grow up around the race, and it's incredible, isn't it? So go for it. Sorry, what were you going to say?
Well, to be honest, I mean, you know yourself, you grow up here, the TT is part of your blood. It happens every year. It's just something that is part of being local and being Manx. I can't think of anybody I know at some point hasn't been in a bike, on a car, who doesn't know someone who races, who rides Southern Hundreds, any of the classics, up at Derby. It's just, for a tiny island, the amount we do here is fantastic. We are very, very lucky. And obviously, lockdown, we've been exceptionally lucky. One case in 100 days, I think. So people have been out and about. People are getting out on their bikes. Only last week we had a key worker ride. So we had ambulances, fire engines, you name it, and hundreds of guys on their bikes just doing a lap, just basically saying thank you, recognizing all the work that all the key workers have had. It was brilliant. We you know, when we got out on track, we saw people lining the hedges, people waving flags, giving it was the Thursday clap, but all around the TT circuit. So it's nice. We're not normal. We've missed out on the classic, sadly. We've missed out on the Manx. But life is starting to come back, and you know, life over here, we take what you throw at us, we'll make the most out of it. So we are lucky. I mean, I grew up, I grew up in Laxey, but we had the shop that was within spitting distance of the paddock. So we had riders, spectators. I mean, I learned German on the street, selling sandwiches and pop outside. I was hustling film to tourists as they came past, asking, you know, what's the best to use, and it was whatever I had the most of down the back, and Dad saying to me, right, make sure you sell this one today. You know, it was my first commission job. I got a free can for every 10 I sold, I think. But it was just, TT was part of your life. You went down on the prom, they had the burnouts. I mean, I remember being in the crowd and ordering a pizza one time, and pizza came in and everyone was just diving in, and it's just life. You know, it's hard to describe things that you do. And it wasn't until I moved to the UK and realized that people don't have that over there. You know, they don't have that crazy 2 weeks every few months. They don't have that camaraderie. I mean, I've got friends. I mean, John America is amazing. I've got friends like Matt and the guys down in Australia. I've got some of the guys who've ridden, mechanics, fans from all over the place. There's people in Japan who come over with their mates. You know, they bring these little minis from Japan and they ship them in a container and they come and do the rally here. And we get, you know, we're a tiny island, but we get to make friends literally all around the world. So for me, the exhibition was a way of just going, all my friends, all the people I know, all the people who want to be here and can't be here, let's just have a bit of a reminder and just sort of say, look, here it is. This is what we've all seen, and just start swapping stories again, and talk about the time when you passed Joey Dunlop on the street, or you're in having a drink, John McGuinness is there, or just wander around the paddock and making friends, and collecting stickers, collecting souvenirs. The guys who got the badges, I've got my 1979 Dunlop mug that I picked up when I was a kid. That's in the cupboard upstairs. I mean, to be honest, when I was a kid, you'd run around the paddock. We were more excited about the stickers and the mugs and the freebies. And then, we got to be scouts on the scoreboard and running up and down the scoreboard that hasn't changed in 100 years. And you get a free lunch. That was the biggest part of it. Was having a free lunch. The bikes, collecting autographs from people you have no idea who these people are. And I've just got a book filled with scribbles. Didn't think to get them to write it down, say who they are. So I've got this guy's signature. To be honest, it could have been the guy running the car park. I was 8 years old, and I'm just like, excuse me, mate, can I have your autograph? But it was just fantastic. It was free. It was open. You'd walk around. You'd see all these people. People are so friendly. People come here. Everybody comes here. I mean, the TT. The classic symbolizes the TT as it's been over the 100 years, but it's more than just the racing.
Yeah,
it's the people. It's that experience. Yourself. People come over. I mean, the year that we had all the really bad rain, you had all the locals just opening their doors. Putting messages on Facebook saying, if you need somewhere dry, if you want to come and dry your clothes, if you just want to chill out, just come here. We literally open our doors. The island used to be a hotel destination. There aren't as many hotels, unfortunately, anymore. But now we do homestay, and you get people who book in people's homes, and they look after them. And for me, I think it's all summed up with when you grew up on the island, you talk about the visitors to TT. It's not tourists. It's visitors. It's people who are visiting our home. They're coming to our home. They're seeing what we've got. Yeah, the TT isn't Manx. It's held on the island. There's the map behind me. It's if you go around the map, you'll find half those places on the island are named after people who aren't Manx. But they're as much a part of being here as we are. You've got people who come every year. You've got officials, mechanics, spectators, racers. They descend on the island for 2 weeks. They share that experience. I mean, the TT is practicing, it's racing, it's going down to the villa and going to Bush's tent. It's watching the red arrows. I mean, who goes out to watch the red arrows any other time of the year apart from TT? We're like, oh, red arrows are on, and everybody knows the red arrows are coming. Any other time you think I could just sit by an airport and watch a plane fly over. But everybody goes down. There's thousands of people. The prom is lined up. You have to go down about an hour before. Douglas Heads, Onken Head. Police have closed the road because there's no more cars can get down, and there's people with blankets and picnics and everything, and you have this huge day out to go and see the red arrows. You've got guys on motorbikes going 200 miles an hour the other side of a hedge, and we're all there doing this. But that's the TT. It's that experience. It's people say, oh, the TT, it's the bikes, and it's some people, the newspaper want to talk about crashes and things like that, but it's until you've experienced sitting on a hedge next to a guy from Germany there, a guy from Bristol over there, somebody who's probably from your own town who you haven't seen before, but you get chatting to him, and then you'll see them in a pub somewhere else, or you'll see them, it's where you're going to watch later, where you're going to do this. You are all part of this experience. So yeah, the TT didn't run, but the TT didn't stop. The TT feeling, everybody talking about the TT, people putting pictures online, and that's where, for me, people have said, oh, you want to, you're giving all these pictures away and things like that. I'm like, it's what we do anyway. It's just sharing the TT with people we can't see face to face.
Yeah, I think you can relate to this. So growing up on the island, you at the shop and myself in the hotel, we fell in love with the people before we fell in love with the racing. Yeah, and that's my case, and I'm sure you can relate to that as well, because the characters, I'm getting goosebumps. The people, even now, we're obviously in love with the people, and that's what this platform is very much about. When we saw what you were doing, what Jim was doing, it's about everything around it and shining a light on those people, the personalities, the characters that create this traveling circus, as Dom Herbertson likes to call it, this family, TT family atmosphere. And that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of my earliest memories of the shop, I remember, so you'd stand behind the counter and, you can imagine like this little like 8-9-year-old boy, and he's there, and all of a sudden this massive Viking guy comes in, and he's in leather armor, and he's got his helmet, and he comes up and he's looking properly scary. And then he is the nicest guy, trying in very broken English to explain that he just wants 20 cigarettes. Or can I direct him to where the TT course is? And he's got this idea that there's going to be this huge stadium, and you go, it's just the top of the road, mate. It's like literally just keep going up, and where the road's blocked, that's the TT course. They've arrived for their first time, and it's these incredible. Normally, you'd be like, "Oh shit," but this apologies. But this guy comes in, and he's so nice. I remember one time. My dad always reminds me of this one. I was, because obviously early morning practices used to be sort of 6 a.m. The guys would be up doing the early morning practices, get out of the way. I say sadly they don't do that, but that's because I've forgotten what it was like getting up that early to go to work every morning. But where we were Duke's Road, so we were about half a mile from the paddock. The guys go out, do their early morning practice. They come down. They'd send usually one of the sidecars and come down. So you've got this racing sidecar, no mufflers on the exhaust, the sound's bouncing off the streets and the roads, and everybody within a mile has woken up, and these guys would come in and they'd hand over the list. They need like milk, newspaper, cigarettes, whatever they got, and they'd load in the passenger seat, and next thing you hear the thing firing up, and off it goes up the road again. And I was working one morning, and this guy came in, and I couldn't tell if he was on his way home after a night out. I couldn't tell if he was planning to go out, but all I knew was this bloke came in the scruffiest leathers I've ever seen. There was more duct tape than leather. And he comes over and he's got this rolly hanging out of his mouth, and he's like, yeah, it's Oregon. And he comes up and he just asks for some tobacco, and he's got like the newspaper, and off he goes, and he comes out, and I'm looking at this money in my hand thinking, geez, right, okay, I'll put that in thing. And Dad goes to me, do you know who that was? I was like, and I'm looking up and going, how the hell would I know who that guy was? And he's like, that was Joey. Like, what? Why didn't you tell me 10 minutes ago? I got his bloody autograph. It's like you could have had it for free. And again, it's things like, it's like, that was Joey. You didn't need to say who it was. That was Joey. But it was also Joey, the bloke, the guy who'd just come down, probably still drunk from the last night before, probably driving somebody else's car. The story that John McGuinness always tells of him driving over the roundabout and things. It's you hear these stories because they're people. You see these guys in leathers and their helmets screaming past, and you have this idea of like, that's Joey Dunlop. He's won more TTs. You could put him on a push bike and ride him backwards, and he'll probably still get on the podium. And I know from my family, obviously with my godfather and his father, they were racing. My dad used to race. He used to do the internationals. And you have an idea of the races, but then you get to meet the people. And Joey is Joey's. He's Joey Dunlop. He's the Dunlop. He's one of the most famous families there is. But then also he's this guy in scruffy leathers with a rolly hanging out, and he's just after his tobacco, and he just wants his newspaper, and he's just going to take it up the road and just read it like anybody else and have a chat. And he'll stop and chat in the street, and you see the guys walking down the street, and you look at Formula One and you look at footballers, and ironically they're in a bubble all their lives. I think, not just lockdown. But the TT, that's half the stories people tell is when someone's run out of fuel or the bike's broken down, and they pull over, and they're just chatting away, and then someone will offer to go and get them a pint at the pub, or they'll have a cup of tea. There was Ballycrane a couple of years ago, famously pictures of the guys bouncing up and down on the kids' trampoline. Where else do you get guys who are like racing gods jumping up and down on the trampoline with the kids in the garden because their bike's broken down, they can't get picked up, they've got nothing to do, so they've got to wait. And they're real people, and there are real stories. Their families, they've got kids, they've got friends, they've got parents. The paddock is more than just the rider you see on the road. The bikes are more than just the bike you see at 200 miles an hour coming past. It's that emotion, it's that connection, it's that reality. When you see a week before race starts, and the guys are putting up the tents in the paddock, and it's starting to build up. And then within hours of the race finishing, it's pretty much empty. You know, you've got the Irish races at the Balloon circuit, because the Irish boat didn't go until after the UK boat is going to race down there. You know, the stuff in the back of the van down going. It's interesting. You know yourself, growing up in the hotel, you know, they book their time. They've only got so much time. The first thing they do is look out the window and see what the weather's like, and then they try and find out what the weather's like on the other side of the island. And it's always sunny in Ramsey, according to everybody I know in Ramsey. But it's a kind of like, are we going to race? Aren't we going to race? You never know. You've just got to go. You go through the routine and off you go. And it's a very strange experience, I think, for somebody who hasn't been through it the first time. But growing up with it, it's strange to think we haven't got that.
Oh God, I've missed it this year. So I'm just going to share some comments with you. We've got lots of hellos. Linny Ritzy saying hi from Fleetwood. Kevin Dodds is saying hello, Steve and Lady.
Hi,
thank you. And John is saying Steve is speaking. The very reason I want to visit the people, and of course the TT, of course. And Samantha Lloyd said, we met some of our best friends who live on the Isle of Man through going to the TT. Shirley and Jimmy Moore, Barry Wood. We thank the TT for them. It's true though, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
It really is. I remember chatting to a marshal on the mountain one year. We were making a DVD for Duke, and his story was he'd lost 3 marriages because of his commitment to the TT and being a marshal. He lost 3 wives.
And the same thing. We had a wedding a couple of years ago of 2 marshals who met at the TT.
Yeah,
they met and they proposed. If I remember rightly, I've just saw the little picture, that last comment. I'm pretty sure the profile picture she's using was the Simon Andrews ride-out lap. There we go. That looks like it's going to be one of the Simon Andrews ride-out lap ones. If it's the one I'm thinking of, it took about 20 minutes for all the bikes to leave the line. There were so many people. And again, it's brilliant that you do. You make so many friends. You see people. You hear people who move to the island because of the TT. They want to live over here. They come for TT. They love the place. Then they come over here, and then 5 years later they complain that they can't get out of the house because the roads are closed. But it is. It's marshalling. It's a labor of love. People do it because they want to. And I'm lucky. My job takes me from location to location. I go from spot to spot, and you see the stories repeated, but then you see, the guys at St. Ninians, the guys at Quarterbridge, the guys at Laurel Bank, every single place you go to, you get to see that marshals, and you see again, it's like, it's a little team. They marshal their team, they get to know each other. And even if they're moving around and they marshal in a different spot on different days, when you get there for the roads to close and you see everybody's being so welcoming, and you explain like where it is, and then you swap your stories and you're waiting for the race to go, so you're just chatting away, and the people you meet and the stories you hear, and being able to go around and share that, to think that's a job, it's kind of special. It is. It's a pretty amazing thing to have.
Agreed. Now, before we move on to the exhibition, I just want to share a couple of comments here. Now, James Fawcett says, I love that they afforded the chance to be real people. I marshal at British Superbikes in the UK, and so many of the riders can't be themselves, as the fans just want a piece of them. It's true, though, isn't it? It's a very different experience.
I'm pretty sure at BSB you wouldn't find half of them turning up with their camper van and then having a hot tub fitted outside so they can just chill out in the hot tub. And there's like little yellow ducks floating in it the rest of the time. You're like,
brilliant.
The famous one would be ShopRite, where the riders shop, as their advert says. But you go down to ShopRite in race week and you'll be walking up the aisle, and all of a sudden you'll find somebody's won the TT 14 times coming the other way looking for the bread. They really are. It is. You can just be. I mean, admittedly, they wear a helmet most of the time, so you wouldn't recognise them. But yeah, like I say, they are people, and they do get to just share. And the fans get. I've never known anybody who race on the TT not have time for the fans. There's one or two people who like to be alone. Who that's natural. We're people. You are who you are. But I mean, the classic. They have the fancy dress day. where everybody gets dressed up in fancy dress. I mean, every time I see Connor, I always remember one or two outfits he's worn. But where else do you get the fans just walking around, and literally the tents are open. You can walk around the paddock. You've got mechanics work on bikes that are worth tens of thousands of pounds. And you can ask these mechanics and say, oh, what are you doing out? What parts are you using? They're happy to chat. And the bikes are just stood there. After the race, if they won, you'll find the bike just stood outside, just parked there with the laurels on it. And it's a different world, and it hasn't changed in 100 years. It's the TT. It's not just the race. It is the TT is all of that, and I think the fans are as much a part of the race as the race itself.
Agreed. Hannah Markham says, hello, Steve. So we've got to move on to this exhibition. We've got to get it in, haven't we? So
the guys on bikes look a lot better than I do, so we should look at that.
John's saying, make sure you visit Steve's website. Absolutely, babphotography.com. Thank you, John. But Steve, he wasn't always a photographer. It's only been the last 10 years. Is that right?
Yep. Bought my first camera in 2010.
Wow.
I was a contract project manager. I worked. In fact, that's why I've got a camera. You work contracting. You're going to work long hours. I lived in hotels. I moved around a lot, and I got to the point where I was working over here, and you'd arrive first thing in the morning. You'd work right the way through, and then you'd be going home. And our HR manager sort of said to me, "Look, I want you to leave the office. I want you to get out once a day, leave the office. Every time I see you're at a desk or in a meeting, something like that, you're going to burn out. You've got to do something." And I was working in Castletown. And Castletown is, and obviously anybody who lives in Castletown, I love Castletown. It's fabulous. It's amazing. It's also not that different every day. After 4 days and you stood behind the same person ordering the same thing in the sandwich queue, you start having a Groundhog Day moment. So my wife, who quite frankly is the only good thing I've ever done in my life, marrying Louise, she said to me, look, buy a camera. When you buy a camera, just take a camera, just go and take pictures, just do something, find a reason to go out and walk and go somewhere and take pictures. I was like, oh, fair enough, I'll take a camera. It's digital, no one's ever going to see it, no one will realize how bad I am. And then I just started taking pictures every day, and I enjoyed it, and I got more into learning about the pictures, learning about photography. I tried to teach myself mainly by making as many mistakes as I could and figuring out why I'd screwed it up. And yeah, 10 years later, I'm still learning. I still have no idea what I'm doing. Apart from if you take enough, one of them is probably going to be in focus. And for me, it's kind of, I slowed down work. I retired effectively, and now I've trained to be a teacher. I teach at the college, so I teach business, I teach animation. I have the college and the teaching, which is incredibly rewarding and challenging, and that satisfies one side of me. And then I have the photography and the arts and the creative element that satisfies the other side. So I am incredibly lucky. We don't live in the biggest house in the world, but we've got enough space for what we need. We live in an amazing island. The kids are at school. I get to spend time seeing them. So I get my school holidays. I get to spend time with family. I get to engage in a passion that I never knew I had. I picked up a camera. I'd find in the past, I didn't like going into a room full of people. I didn't like going in and being the center of attention. I'd go in and sort of sit to the side and keep to myself, and I'd chat to my friends. But now I will walk in with the camera and literally be in the middle of everything goes on. The camera has taken me places and shown me things that I never would have seen. I'm seeing the world and life around me in a way that I just missed before. So to say it's a job is not fair, because I am one of the luckiest people I know. I have a passion. I get to enjoy it. Not everybody tells me I've screwed it up. I get a reward and a sense of reward from the teaching and from the photography. That's very personal to me. I am working to live now. In the past, chasing money, pay off the mortgage, get the cars, everything else like that. I was like, actually, what's the lesson I'm teaching my kids? Because I hardly ever see them. Having kids is what brought us back home, brought us back to the island. Our families are here. We wanted to grow up here. So again, I'm in this position now where I can take pictures. I love taking pictures of sport. I mean, bikes are in my blood. They're in my family. Motorsports, all sport. But at the same time, I get to take pictures of weddings. I love a good wedding. And you get to see people enjoying themselves. But then I do events, I do corporates, I have the studio. And for me, what I've learned, particularly in my photography, is people say, what do you like to take pictures of the most? And it's emotion. It's people. It's that story. It's that narrative. I mean, don't get me wrong, Connor, Dave Neen, Kieran Broad, Peter Farragher. I apologize to everybody I know who I didn't just list as being a better photographer than me, but these guys are amazing photographers. In terms of sports photographers, the sports they do are fantastic, and it's a shame they don't really get the recognition they deserve. I mean, I see it from my side and go, these guys are brilliant. I'm not the greatest sports photographer in the world. Probably never will be. I'm not. For me, my passion isn't in the traditional sporting image. It's the emotion of the story of the moment. The exhibition, they're not the best pictures I've ever taken, but hopefully they're the ones that fit with the narrative. So I've tried everything I do, be it weddings, be it newborn babies, be it an event. For me, what I want to do is I want to capture the story of that moment and be able to relay that. So that I can, when I sit down with my kids, when I'm teaching, I can say to them, look, this is what we do. This is what this was. When you say, well, I went to this event, I can tell the story of that event. In the past, for me, a photograph is fine. It's just technical, but a picture is a story, and it's that memory. So again, with the classic, when I look back on the pictures of my dad in the past, pictures of family, I look back at the pictures of the kids, and I'm like, you look back at one, you think, I mean, obviously Louise knows which ones they are, but when they're a baby, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's Charlotte, not Tom. But again, it's like, where were we been taken? But when we look at the picture, it's like, oh, we were on holiday here, or we were doing that.
Yeah.
So it's more about what does the picture opens the door to the memory and to the story. So I learned a lot working. I enjoyed my working life. I was very, very fortunate. I have a lot to thank that HR manager for. She did a huge favor for me, and as always, it's pretty much down to Louise. Anything good I managed is down to Louise. Anything I screwed up is pretty much down to me. Like I say, I got one thing right, and that was Louise, and from there on in, it's just gravy. It's all good.
Fantastic. Love it. Right. So should we show this amazing exhibition then? We've got a couple of comments. Top Man Steve by Gary Harrison. So as we move and open up the...
Gary's a fantastic photographer. Add him to the list. Sorry, Gary.
Wonderful. Hello, Gary. So remember, share this with your friends, anyone that might enjoy the show, invite them in. And we're going to open up the exhibition. So Steve is going to guide me around it as if we were walking through the gallery, through the exhibition. Now, what I love, I'm going to quote you now, Steve, is you say, you learn to look past the obvious and see the beauty in the details. I thought that was stunning.
Thank you.
Let's head in.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully that's kind of the best way I can try and sum up what I tried to do with all these pictures. On these, you'll find that there's a description and a narrative. So it's not necessarily the picture as a whole. So if we look at the first one straight away, the number one there, obviously you've got the story of number one. Who else? John McGuinness, number one ride at the classic, number one go around in a minute. But then if you look down, you've got the three legs in the middle of the number. So, this isn't just a bike, number one, this is a bike in the Isle of Man. And it's a classic bike. But then at the same time, it's also covered in raindrops because we were all stood around waiting to see, were we going to practice, weren't we going to practice, were the clouds going to lift? And that's very much a TT thing. It's a case of looking up the clouds and seeing what the weather gods are going to do for us. So for me, that detail, it's the little bits that tell that story behind. So it's it's not a fantastic picture, but I like the story, and it's what I wanted to open the exhibition with.
The infamous kind of a microclimate that we have on the gorgeous Isle of Man. So it's so beautiful, though, because it's crazy weather. All right. So let's check out that beautiful trophy.
That's what it's all about.
Stunning.
Yeah, it's kind of special. And again, I love the fact that, the guys here, as you qualify down, it's not the top three. It's not the person you get your replicas. You get you get your replicas. You get your silver. You get your bronze. One thing that I really enjoy is prize giving night. So down at the villa, it's mainly the teams. It's mainly the riders. They all come out. They all get the medal. They all come through. Particularly, if the Manx Grand Prix is probably my favourite of the sort of celebrations. Obviously, the classic TT Manx all runs together. But there you've got it's the whole paddock comes down. You're not in your leathers or anything. You're just sharing the fact that you've all, how you got on. The winners get lifted out in this chair, and all their mates are trying to throw them out this chair, and they get delivered up. It's an amazing atmosphere. And it's the trophy represents success. It's not a trophy you get to keep. You get to keep your replica, but it's not about winning money. It's not about winning trophies. It's about just like the races. It's you against the road. It's you against yourself, and then it's you against everybody else.
Great. So introduce this for me, Steve, if you don't mind. So this is the first room. Have you got 3 rooms, I believe?
Yeah, there's 3 rooms in the classic. So we've got the first room is about the prep, the build up. It's about getting yourself out onto the start line. So in this room, the race hasn't started yet. It's about everything that builds up, because as with everything else, you can go out and you take a bike up, but you don't just take it out the van, sit on it and run it. You've got to practice, you've got to qualify, you've got the mechanics, tune it, test it. There's an RC30 you can see there just to the right. That's from Canada. That's the guys over at Bragg Creek Power Sports, Alberta in Canada. Where else in the world would you find A, an RC30 just sat in a tent, and B, one from Canada that's come here? And again, you've got all these little tiny tents in the paddock. Everybody's getting the bikes. The ones from overseas, I had some friends came over. They came from California. I say friends. I didn't know them till they arrived. We still stay in touch now. And they packed their bikes up in a crate, and it was 3 months later they got to see it on the island. So everything's cleaned, tested, checked, put away, and then you can see, it's like I said before, in terms of the spectator access. You can just walk around, and these incredible machines have just been prepared, ready to go. You've got the mechanics there just working on the bikes. And the quality and standard, when you think about, you see this bike and it's absolutely pristine, and then it's about to go out and ride around 37 miles of the TT course in all kinds of weathers, covered in all God knows what. And then you're going to bring it back in, clean it, prep it again. There's the man himself. Mr. McGuinness. But the beauty of that shot, when we took it, you've got John McGuinness just sat in Mike Hailwood replica leathers on Mike Hailwood's bike. So one of the legends of the sport on the bike of another legend of the sport, and just chatting away to officials and people walking up and down, and almost like you've just been on a ride out, and you pulled into the cafe and you're just seeing people there and you're chatting about things, and you're like, that's pretty incredible to be that close to just walk past. As you walk past, you go, right, John. And they'll say hello to you. They probably haven't got a clue who you are, but you walk away and they'll smile and they'll be friendly. But it's that access, and it's that build up before the race. It's serious, but it is relaxed in places.
Life and times of the road warriors, hey?
Yeah, very much so.
Look at these. Okay.
And then you can see here, he'll kill me if he ever knows I put this picture up. I think it's the one on the left. You got Ian Locker, Michael Rutter, John McGuinness. I think we worked out something like 87 years racing experience between the three of them. So Stephen Davison, famous TT photographer, they grabbed his camera and decided they were going to start taking selfies and pictures. And you can see what they think of their work. But yeah, the guys are just stood there. We're just waiting to go out, and they're just stood having a laugh, having a joke. And for me, what I like about this is, it's a funny picture, but it just reminds you how real they are. It's more than the name, than the machines. These are real people, really old people in my case. But they're all in their leathers, they're all ready to go out there. They're hyper professional. I mean, Michael Rutter, obviously his dad raced, highly successful. Ian Locker can wring the neck off anything. But there they are, just like three lads having a laugh, having a joke, so that's, again, technically not the best photograph, but one of my favorites.
So the narrative is just incredible, isn't it? Great. Where are we going next?
Well, if we swing right the way around, there's Milky Quail. I mean, what you got here is, Milky, obviously famous local rider, successful rider. But again, this sums up a lot of it. A lot of the officials are ex-riders. The traveling marshals are all ex-racers. But you got Milky there on the line. He's now as much a part of the race as he ever was before. And for me, that just sums up the sort of the heritage of the TT. That yes, racing is part of it, but the organising, the officials. We've got deputy clerk of the course is local. You've got people all around that are. You see them in their day job every other day of the year, and then you see them at TT and they've got a special role, the start marshals, things like this, that's their job. They've done it for years, but they stay involved with it. So, it's fantastic the way the TT just keeps on going year after year.
I saw him do a lap of the TT course. He was insane, in the hospitality last year, was it? Oh, it was so exciting to listen to.
It is ace. And then on the left, these three pictures just on the left there. Again, it's hard to describe the feeling when you're on the start line. You're in Parc Ferme and everyone's warming up, they're revving, there's a noise, there's spectators, there's press, there's everything going around, and then you get up on Glencrutchy Road, and this is for me where you see the real emotion start. This is the start of the race. So they're lining up. Parc Ferme, they've come out of there. You've got this quiet now. You've got the town oil come up saying, attention paddock, 15 minutes, 5 minutes. You might get a warning about damp roads, wet roads in different places, and here you get this is where the rider and the mechanic, they have this special bond. It's your chief mechanic and the rider, they have to trust each other completely. The guys set up the bikes the way that they know their riders like. The riders are trusting that the bikes are set up, everything's done, that when they wring the neck off it, it's going to do what it's supposed to do, that it's been checked and double checked. And you get this bond, and it's very focused, it's very calm. Different riders approach it in different ways. Some are happy to chat and laugh, some just like to be quiet. Famously, there's a bus stop there. Some like to just go into the bus stop to keep away from everybody. And as a photographer, you kind of learn to read the body language and learn to respect them. So you kind of like keep out of the way. You're there to do a job. You have to record it. But equally, this is not the point you want to start a row. You don't want to upset a guy who's about to go out and race 4, 5, 6 laps of a 37-mile circuit at over 100 mile an hour average on 40-year-old bikes. You have to respect what they do, and they respect that you'll be professional wherever you are around the course. Again, if you're a professional photographer and you're allowed in front of the rope, you are taking a lot on. You have to say, look, I have to be aware of my surroundings. I have to make sure I don't do anything that puts them at risk. I don't put the marshals at risk. I don't put the spectators at risk. I need to get my shot. I need to do my job. But at the same time, I need to know that I don't want to be the problem. So the start line, it kind of gets a bit crazy either side, but you just watch. And then as you come down these three, you'll see, there's Michael Rutter. And again, he's in his head, he's focused now. He's moving forward. You get, they go out at timed intervals. He's running through the first few miles in his head. He's thinking about, when he's going to be pitting, how long before his tires are warmed up. What was the weather forecast? Has the bike been running okay in qualifying? Have they changed the gearing? Behind you can see the mechanic, and he's just making sure it's focused. He's pushed forward, and it's very calm. Nobody's around talking to now, and they're moving up. And then you get to this point where there's these two barriers, and that's as far as the press or anybody else can go. And there's a gap between there and the start line. And at the start line, it's the rider and the starter. And you'll see in that next shot. So we've got Gary Johnson just on the right there. At that point, he's on his own. you know, and you can see the concentration in his head. It's the noise is gone. He's not hearing that noise. You know, if you think everybody who's ever been on the start line for anything, you know, you're just focused. You're getting yourself into your zone. You're getting yourself into your rhythm. It doesn't matter how many times you've ridden a lap of the TT. It's the next lap is the one you're thinking about. You know, and you've got to get everything right. Okay. And any minute now, you're going to get a tap on the shoulder, you're going to open up the throttle, and you're going to head straight towards Bray Hill and this huge drop down Bray Hill before you hit Agos. And then it's going to be screaming noise lap after lap, mile after mile. You've got 37 miles of riding on public roads for one lap. You know, if you're doing 4 laps, you know, that's a long way. That's a lot of corners. That's a lot of gear changes. It's a lot of braking points. You've got to concentrate that entire time while this bike is shaking you to bits through bright light, dark lights, you know, bouncing over manhole covers, slippery paints where it's marked on the roads. You know, trying to remember the course. They say it takes 3-4 years to learn the course, and you know, you've got to get into that rhythm. So this is the point where it's almost very Zen-like, where they just calm down, and yeah, everyone's cheering and things like this, and you know, they open it up and everyone cheers, but you know yourself, you open up a bike engine, you're not really hearing the guy next to you, and you're just off. You know, you're looking 100 yards down the road further, you know, just planning it all out. So those 3 together for me just symbolize what it's like on the start line when you come from this chaos of Parc Fermé to this quiet focus to it's you, it's your bike, it's the mountain course. You race the course, you race yourself, you race the others, and this is where it becomes very real. And this, you know, it doesn't matter how many times you've done it, this now is where it starts, and there's no going back from this point. So I wanted to get these 3 together to just symbolize that movement down Glen Crutchley Road to the start.
Brilliant. We've had a couple of comments. We've got Hanora Markham saying, what an amazing idea. It's nice to get lost in the images and it really feels like I'm walking around. And John's promoting you again. And Hanora also says, great shot of Gary. I agree. All right, let's move on, shall we? We're running low on time. So let's move on to the next room, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. So where are we going to next?
This next one is mainly, this is just kind of shots from around the course, different parts of the course, just showing the different styles, the way they ride. So if we go straight to the far wall, it kind of loops back on itself. You know, you can see here the guys ready to start, and they're just on the right, that's the starter. So from that point on, it's there to the end. The next time you cross that line and it really matters is the finish. So this room is really much just about different areas. So you've got sort of Bray Hill, Quarter Bridge. We can just have a walk around, but you'll just see it's kind of telling the story of the lap. Again, up over Agos, you can see all the hills and behind, see how narrow it is. You know, that's the biggest road you'll be on. That, you know, that's the main road. They don't get any wider than that really, but that's you've got 37 miles of that coming. If you go around, I think just to your right, you can see, you know, these guys are getting right the way over. There's Dean getting the knee down, coming right the way around Quarter Bridge. And as you come round this bend, the road then just straightens off straight down towards Braddon Bridge. So they've come down through the trees and it's kind of opened up now, and this is their first real corner. This is about a mile and a half after the start, and this is a point where you've come to a straight line, you've come down Bray Hill, you've done Agos, you're really pulling on the brakes for the first time, and this is where you'll get a feel for the bike. If the bike's set up, okay. If there's a problem, you'll know it here. And this is the last chance you've really got to like pull over, stop, and just go, yeah, this isn't right. I need to go back, and you can get picked up and taken back up to the paddock from there. So any problems, this is kind of your bailout point here. And I think just to the right, you'll see, you know, there's one of the guys just pulling over. It's Gary just pulling over. And again, he's realized the bike, he's not happy with the bike. He's pulling over, and the marshals just directing him, saying, right, just over to there. And you know, the crowd will be very respectful. That bike will get parked up, and they'll come around at the end of the race, pick it up and take it back. But that's make or break at this point. So Quarter Bridge is your last chance, and then you're off.
All right.
Just quick, the thing of the detail, if you look just the bottom of the bike there, you can see the message, thanks Dad. This is Tom Whedon. But it just sums up, you know, the guys who come to race here, they're not, you know, these aren't professional footballer kind of wages. You know, these guys pay to enjoy the sport, and it's only through friends, family, sponsors, everything they can to scrape the money to get together. They sacrifice so much to get to this, and it was just nice. Sometimes you'll see little messages on the bikes, and that's one. Tom's dad is his main mechanic, and that was just his message. But it's only when he's really committed that you get to see it. So only when he really gets it around the corner, that's when you get to see it. So again, that's a very personal message, and that's typical, particularly of like the classic. You'll see things like that. I like that picture because of that.
Brilliant.
If we carry on, and we probably loop around. I mean, there's the road just heading down towards Bradden Bridge. But I think if we come around the other side, Ballascary. You've come through Uni Mills, you're up there, and it's this fast right-hander, and you do you take it flat? Do you back off? How do you come through? This is where you've got to be committed to get through Ballascary. You're really throwing yourself into this, and this is when you're racing the course. I think most of the guys, if you ask them about Ballascary, they'll tell you respect that corner a lot. And then again, you'll see the next couple of shots, I think, really are just sort of heading through Glenvine. You tuck in, you get the speed, and then you hit the famous Greba Castle. You come down, and it's this dip to a left hand, sort of like, so you come through and you got left, right, left. And then you come up into this rising right-hander. You're right up against the curbs. You're scuffing the curbs. And in practice, the sun hits you full in the face here. So you come from a really dark kind of dip, you come up and you're looking straight out towards the setting sun. So race days, it's not as bad, but certainly in practice, this is where you get blinded. And, you think you're coming over there, you're doing three figures. You're coming over a rising crest, you bank into the right, the road carries on round to the right and then starts to dip, and then you're off into a fast left-hander. But you're absolutely blinded by the sun at this point. Although this shot, for me, when I look at it, it's a nice shot of Bruce, but when you go into this combination of corners, you don't know what's the other side, you don't know what there is, and you're completely trusting those marshals to give you that warning, because at the speed you're traveling, you can't just stop. If anything happens, they've got to give you that warning with the flags to let you know that there's no radios on the guys. So it's you work on flags, it's silent communication, and you are wholly committed to that series of corners, but you don't know what's at the other end. And you're relying on, if the guy in front of you has a problem, he'll pull right over out the racing line. He won't just try and fiddle it and make the best, because he's a moving obstacle. So again, it's, they trust each other. They rely on each other. Everyone works together these unspoken ways to just get the most for each person right the way through. So when I look at that picture, for me, it tells me that story of that blind commitment, as much as it's for me, it's a nice shot of Bruce on the noise coming out of Greba.
Great. All righty, where are we going to next?
Go straight ahead towards the sunlight. Laura Bank, that's a typical Manx view. Glorious sunshine, in amongst the trees, long sweeping right-hander. When you're taking this picture, you hear them coming, you hear the noise bouncing through the trees over the hills, especially the classics. They sound so good. Or the sidecars sound pretty cool as well, but you don't get to see those in Classic Week, unfortunately. But these guys come through, and all of a sudden they're just sweeping around this bend, and it really is majestic. And there you can just see the marshal, just again, some of the warning flags, just letting them know, just watching them come and go, and just keeping an eye on everything, but ready to act at any time. But for me, that just sums up the Classic. It's gorgeous sunny day, great bikes, great sight, great sound.
Brilliant.
And I think we've just got a couple. So you've just got like Kirkmichael, and then Ballaugh Bridge, obviously famously the Ballaugh Bridge. That's the jump halfway around the course, and then you see them all. That's the exit coming out of Ballaugh. And new chippings on the road. The road. It's a public road. It's what we use. These guys, you can see there, it's throwing the chippings up. This is a shot from practice. So you've got different guys, different classes. So again, as they're practicing qualifying, they're going at different speeds. They're catching each other, passing each other, picking your lines, and then you've got chippings being thrown up, because as big as TT is, it reminds me that life here carries on 52 weeks out of the year. TT is huge, but we are shutting down our country. We're shutting down all these roads. Everything stops for TT. It is a living road. It's a living island. So for me, that shot reminds me of very much of practice. I love practice because you see so many bikes out, so many different things all at once. It's fantastic listening and seeing them all, but it also reminds you that, you've got this kind of like day-to-day life of the island, that as soon as TT is over, we're just going to carry on. So it is run on public roads. It's not a special circuit, but it is special in so many different ways.
Yeah, agreed. Jimmy Kimbo says, we watched Classics 2019, enjoyed the slideys, roll on 2021. I'm with you, Jimmy.
And then I think if you just here you've got Sulby Straits, end of Sulby Strait, fastest part of the circuit, and then you get into Sulby Bridge, this right-hander that seems like it's a flat right-hander, but then you'll see as you come up, you're rising up, you're coming over the bridge, and just naturally power wheeling it up. These guys, this is Michael Dunlop, he's got the power down, the front end's just lifting up naturally as the road just crests and falls away from him. He's gonna head on and then head towards the left-hander at Ginger Hall. If you get Sulby Bridge right, it's great, but it's a very technical corner, and it's at the end of the fastest part of the circuit. You've screamed down the Sulby Straits, and now you've got to get your braking right, you've got everything. So it's about carrying that speed through. Don't fight the bike, work it round, and just carry it on out. And again, experience counts all the way around in the TT. And then if you come over to the right, just ahead of you there, you'll see, obviously, we'll jump through Ramsey because it's just sunny in Ramsey. But then you start coming up the mountain. This is the Gooseneck. Now, once you've photographed the TT a couple of times, you start realizing that lap 2 is the time to get the wheelies. The first lap round, they see a photographer and a bloke with a camera. By lap 2, and I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but by lap 2, those front wheels come up a long way. You'll come up and all of a sudden you see the guys who all of a sudden last minute look and they're staring right at you. They're coming past inches away, and it's like maybe you just overcooked it, maybe you didn't do it because every other lap you didn't have the front wheel up. But now that you saw there's a photographer here, so again, as a professional, as a working photographer, you think, well, that's the shot people want to see. So you make yourself very visible on lap 1, knowing, right, lap 2, the boys are going to get the front end up, and then you get back to the paddock and they stop you and say, did you get a picture of me with the wheel up? And it's like, yes, I got it. I hope. But yeah, it's just about, it's, again, this is practice, but it's about knowing where to get that shot. And they don't all do it, but it's something that you don't read it in a book, but then you notice, that's funny, I got a load of wheelie pictures on lap 2. Flash buggers showing off. And then to the right, you can see we're coming up to Guthrie's here. And that's the north of the island. The course runs across, but only half a mile from the course, you're into just quiet farmland, peace. You've got this amazing event going on, but you can go up there and the farms are running as normal. Life's just carrying on. You can hear bikes in the background. You can see the mountain. You can actually see the bikes coming up and sort of see things going on. But again, it's just a gorgeous part of the world up there. But it's away from the circuit. It's hard to imagine that it's going on. It's beautifully peaceful. It's quiet, and that's the kind of view you get over here when you're watching racing. You don't. I love Mallory, but you don't get that kind of view.
It must be extra special you being up there though, Steve, with Jimmy having been your godfather, Jimmy Jr.
Yeah. People always say to me, where's your favorite place to shoot on the Isle of Man? Where's your favorite place to shoot TT? And I've got a lot of corners, but every year I go back. Every year I go to Guthrie's. Obviously, Jimmy Guthrie Jr. Is my godfather. There's a strong family connection, and yeah, it is. It's a special place for me. I love being up at Guthrie's. I love the view, but it has a lot of memories for me, a lot of connections. Jimmy comes over from South Africa. He stays with my dad. You hear the stories of every year. The stories get worse. And you hear the same stories with different names, and but you got these guys reliving their past glories, whether they happen or not. But it's fantastic to just live there and listen to them, and then you hear about Jimmy talking about his dad. And when he was growing up and things like this. So, again, it's to sit in the house at Laxey and just listen to these guys tell that story. That is something that you don't get elsewhere, and it's something you get away from the racetrack. But it's something that the TT gave us. And for me, this last shot kind of sums it up in a way as well, because Practices go on 6 till 9 in the evening. They don't have headlights on the bikes. These are race bikes. You've got the marshals in the background on the modern machinery. They're all ex-racers. And this guy was coming up, and he was the last man on track. The marshals were respectfully back, but he was effectively using their headlights to see the track ahead of him. Imagine riding that bike during the day, flat out, giving it everything, and then imagine that at 9 o'clock at night when it's getting really dark. You're on a tinted visor, everything's very dark, and this is the commitment these guys give. His mechanics are still waiting, so when he's got over the mountain, his team has still got 2-3 hours work at least that night to start checking over the bike, getting it ready, and then getting ready for the morning again. So this is the reality, TT. It's everyone knows the big names at the front, but he's number 89 in the senior there. They're as much a part of the TT as everything, so they'll have the same stories, they'll have the same experiences. They've all ridden that same road, and the guys at the front, as much as I respect and admire what they do, I doubt they've ever been in that situation where they're relying on the marshal's headlights to show the road to get home. So for me, that kind of tells a story of very much of the classic from the start to the end of the grid.
Absolutely. We've got Stafford Evans saying he's honoured to have one of my bikes featured in your exhibition, Steve.
Wow. To be honest, I'm honoured to get to see the guys, to get to you have to pinch yourself sometimes, because I'm a fan first and a photographer second. The TT's in my blood, in my family, in my life, and I never charge the riders. If riders want pictures, I'll happily always give the riders the pictures, because without the riders and the teams, I haven't got a picture to take. So I think I've got about 1,000 images at the minute. There's a free gallery so people can help themselves. They're absolutely free of charge. I'm just honoured if someone likes my work, and if they like it, that's great. All I want to do is kind of make people happy with that. Now this is the end. This is the close. So we've kind of done the lap now to a point where we're up the mountain. So we've just got that last tiny little hump to just get over. That is Snaefell. So if we go straight to the back wall. There we go. Just coming out of Guthrie's. That's John McGuinness. That's a stone wall. That's very hard. It's covered in barbed wire. You're coming up to Guthrie's, and they are literally inches away from a stone wall on all the rough edging on the side of the road. If you think about riding the side of a road, how dirty it is there. These guys on these tiny tires come into this corner, absolutely committed, and sometimes they're nose to tail. There might be 3-4 riders at the same time coming right the way in, and I'm stood just behind that wall as these guys come past. Now, part of me wanted to tell the story and show just how committed they are, and I must admit, part of me is going, if you think taking a picture of a bike normally is difficult, stand next to a stone wall when they're doing 100 miles an hour as they come past 6 inches away. I'm pleased when I get one in focus. It's a challenge for me. I love the shot. I love the heather and everything else behind, because that you could make that black and white and go back to 1930, and that shot would pretty much look exactly the same. That's under this bridge on the other side. You shoot Guthrie's from both sides, and Guthrie's is one of the places where it has a secret, where there's a stream runs down the hill, and there's a stream. This is the bridge for the stream. And you climb down just where that barbed wire is. You go right the way down about 30 feet to where the stream is, and you go through this tiny little tunnel that's slimy and dark, and the stones are slippery because it's had God knows what running on it for God knows how many years. And I'm walking up, and I walked at one time, and I had, my bag had 2 cameras in it. I had about 6 lenses in there, and I had my big lens. And it's a 400mm. It's about 8,500 pounds worth of lens, just this one strapped to my back, and I've got my bag with God knows how many thousand pounds of equipment, and I'm halfway up this like stream, thinking, shit, if I fall over now, this is going to be expensive. And yeah, you've got to go over and you work your way up, you climb through, and then you hope nobody's coming back the other way, and you sort of emerge and you climb up out the way, and you start taking the pictures, and then you've got to there was a picture from TT this year. I was up there with a couple of Australian friends of mine, and there's a picture of me, and I've just hung my socks over the fence to dry because you get soaked through. You don't think about packing wellies, but Guthrie's is where you need them.
Great. So just share a couple of comments. I got Jimmy Kimbo saying, great job, by the way. And he also said, let's wish Dino Harrison all the best for Oliver's Mount this weekend. Agreed. And John Kashirski is saying, this is amazing. Thank you. Really enjoyed this. Gary Harrison saying, lots of us get lazy, but Steve goes that extra mile to find new perspective and always delivers the results. Boom. There you go, Steve. Massive respect. Okay, where are we now?
So again, this is just on the rise back up. So again, we're coming out of Guthrie's now. We're rising back up the hill, but this is the view you see, and they're chasing each other. You can see the rider ahead. You've got something to chase. That they're at intervals. Now they might have been chasing them for 20 miles, just trying to get close, just inching, not knowing, because there'll be somebody behind them chasing them all the way. So again, it's a time trial. So you chase and chase and chase and chase and chase. You push yourself. But again, you take your own line. You don't want to overcommit. So you've got James Hillier there, chasing down either Maria or John McGuinness, I think, on the pattern ahead of them. But it's that race is going on. It's seconds, it's inches. When you think about how long the race goes on for it to be that close is absolutely phenomenal. So they're tucked in. They're giving it absolutely everything on these.
Is that remind me of where Connor went off when he had his big accident? Was it around?
That was up before Graham's Memorial. So that's up on the veranda.
Okay.
So that's about 2 miles further on from where we are here. So we'll see a shot just after that in a minute. But again, actually, this is just leading up towards that. So you'll come up to where Connor went off is between these next two shots now. This one, it's Lee Johnson. Lee's fantastic. Everyone loves Lee. But you can see there the importance of the sponsors. Again, just nobody. This is not a cheap sport, and it is down to the sponsors. So again,
I've got their T-shirt on actually.
It's people actually, RST, Ugly Co. Everybody. You get to see the equipment, but hopefully people buy the kit that's there because it is a business. They are getting the name out. It is good quality stuff, and hopefully, it used to always be, you'd win at the TT, and that meant something. Honda would come over year after year, and Yamaha, and Kawasaki, because to win at the TT meant something. It meant quality. It meant standard, and even now, these guys sponsor it, and the TT still means a lot to people.
Okay, where are you taking us next?
And here we are. This is just leading into the bungalow. But the main thing is, if you look on the right, you can just see the marshal there in his hut. Now, when the road's closed, he's there. And if you're marshalling 6 or 9, so you'll be up there from, say, 5:30. Last practice, the last man's at 9. So it's going to be 9:30, 9:45 before you get to leave that box. It's pretty exposed. You're on top of the mountain. Yeah, you're in a box, but that is not a warm place. Now, they will stand and they watch every rider. They can see them coming for about 2 miles. So he's looking back towards where Connor had his crash, and you see them coming, and then they pass through, and then instantly, straight away, you're onto where the next guy is. You just watch them come through. They're like shepherds watching their flock come through, just keeping an eye time after time after time. And the marshals do such an amazing job. With no marshals, no racing. And that's the kind of commitment that you get to people see. It's also probably the best view on the island. If you want to see the racing and you want to enjoy it, be part of it.
Be prepared and be a part of it.
Yeah.
Get your layers on. Great.
Oh yeah. And then we've kind of got just here, so you can see that's Maria.
Yeah, great.
So
Maria MBE, Maria Costello Mbe.
Yep.
Incredible.
And Maria's racing. There are. Every year, we're seeing women racing. Maria's done really well. She got on the podium with the pattern, and that's Snaefell. That is the mountain. That's what it's named after. But right the way back to like Beryl Swain years ago, first started. Carolyn Sells, 2009. Women have been successful, and there's no reason why anybody, because racing the TT is not a man, it's not a woman. if you are a racer, it's in your blood, and you can do it. And it's fantastic seeing Maria out there and sort of just getting out on the grid. And it's also fantastic seeing the other guys who respect her as a rider. It's not, oh, she's a woman or she's a girl. She's another competitor, and she gets treated exactly the same as everybody else in you know, in the other classes where you see female riders. Again, it's fantastic to see people treating each other as individuals, irrespective of who you are under the leathers. You know, you look at that picture there and you see someone in a helmet, you see someone in leathers, you don't know where they're from, who they are. You know, it's the most equal of all sports, because when you're there, it's just you on the bike against the road, against yourself and against everybody else. So sadly, other sports, I think, can't hold their hands up. But yeah, it's always better to get more equality, but it is nice to see that. And it's nice to see people being respected and doing so well as well.
Jimmy Kimbo said she's faster than most blokes. I agree.
Oh yeah, faster than I am.
She's given 2, 3 and 4 wheels a go as well, hasn't she? It's so impressive. It's incredible what she's done for women in the sport.
There are not many people that have raced at the TT on both the solos and the sidecars, but Maria's one of a very, very small group who've done that, and done it successfully as well.
Great. So okay, moving on. Where are we going
if we swing around now. So keep coming right the way around. It gets a bit confusing in there. So here we've got there's Cam. Now at the Classic they have what they call the parade lap, and these are guys who they do one lap on a bike. I mean, these are amazing machines. They're perhaps not up to doing a complete race, and they're all told it's a parade lap. You know, just take your time, just show off the equipment you've got, and then they get to the start line and they say go, and they hear the words, it's a race. It's the most committed, it's probably the most committed and hardly fought of all the races, because you've got hundreds of guys on bikes. Just that's their moment on the track. You know, they're on that bike, they're on that track, and they're giving it loads. And you know, there's a classic example there. There he is. He's got the replica helmets. You know, he's on the Manx Norton. He looks exactly the part. I mean, it's nice to not see him with a flat cap, to be honest. But it's a gorgeous sound when you hear that Manx Norton, and when you see somebody who knows the track as well as he does. You know, it's Cam Donald's ridden a lot of laps around the Isle of Man, and he really gets the best out of that bike, and it is fantastic. If you want to talk about seeing the best, the parade lap is, you know, some of the machines you see is brilliant. And then I think the next picture is a very special moment. I think if we just go down to the next one.
So stunning, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Sounds amazing.
It's, you know, Bob McIntyre, first 100-mile lap. Right the way back, and then you hear that Michael Dunlop is going to ride a replica of the bike. You know, it's a Black Eagle replica. It's as close to the original as you can get. And again, it was one of those, it's supposed to be a parade lap, but I think everybody knew that he really wanted to do the 100-mile. You know, but he didn't get to practice on the bike. He didn't really get to ride it very much. He just had to climb on and go for it. The conditions weren't great. And yet, I think it's a huge testament to both the rider and the mechanics that bike came around and it did 100 miles an hour. It did 100.5. As a photographer, I hate these. Give me a 6-lap race that gives me 6 chances to take a picture. More than happy. When you know every one of your clients is going to be saying, "Have you got a picture?" It's a special event. He's doing 1 lap. You've got to think, right, where do I want to get a picture of him? I want to make it special. I want to make it as iconic as I can. I want people to know it's that bike at the Isle of Man. But at the same time, it has to be somewhere where I know I'm going to get that shot. I know what's going to happen. I can't take a risk because I can't ask him to go back and do it again, and I can't just drive around the road after him and get another go. I'm going to get 1 shot, and you get 1 go at this. And literally, when he comes back, you know, on this sequence of shots, some people just press the button and leave it. It's not my style. I've got 3 pictures, and it's bang, 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 and this is the middle picture. And again, what I've tried to do in this shot is not only get the bike, not only set the hills in the background, but I tried to get right onto his eye, so you can see, you You know, the way he's looking through the corner, he is racing that bike. There is no question. You know, the way his body's set, but the look in his eyes as he looks through the visor, he's in his clear goggles. You know, that for me, it's that eyeball shot.
Oh, it's great, isn't it?
That's what I wanted to get. And you know, you put pressure on yourself to say, right, if I'm going to go for it, that's what I want, but I only get one chance. You'll never get another chance of this. You'll never get another go. And you don't want to be the person who picks up your client and say, sorry, I nearly got you a great shot. So yeah, it's the pressure's on. And this is where you've got to commit, trust yourself. Just do what you do every single time. And just trust the riders to be where you expect them to be, and trust your equipment to do what it does, and trust in yourself. So anybody who's ever taken pictures of bikes, just go for it. Don't overthink it. Don't over question it. Don't worry about anything else. Just go with what works. And fingers crossed, you know, you get the result. And I'm happy with the picture. I like it. It was a special moment, and I'm just pleased I didn't mess it up completely.
Fantastic. We've had a comment from the great Roy Moore. Good evening, Roy. We have had a number of parade lap competitors who've not made it round the Ramsey hairpin. The Bob Mcintyre Memorial was at the bungalow. Great. Hello, Roy. All right. So where are you taking us next, Steve?
Just around the corner here. So here we go. This is so they're over the mountain now. They're on the rundown, and this is the famous crag. This is the last pub before the finish. This is, for me, this is a special picture. This is Jason Markham. I think we had a comment from Honora earlier. This is her husband. He is a staff sergeant in the artillery. Number 62, here he is a couple of years back on the Honda. But this sums it up. You know, you've got a guy in the army. He gets special allowance to come over and do his racing. He can't go out and practice all the time because, you know, he gets sent off on exercises. He's got his day job. You know, you can't just take time away from the army. So he's absolutely committed to his racing. Now, is he on a number one plate? Well, no. But, you know, he's had some brilliant results. I think he's had top 20 results. Mostly private funded, and again, a lot of the people you go out and see in the TT, the top 10, top 20, big names, you see those, but the stories go right the way back. You know, the guys at number 60, number 70, number 80, they are trying just as hard as the guys at front. They might be 2 or 3 miles an hour slower. You only see that on paper. You do not tell when they come past. You know, these guys are completely committed. So the TT draws people from everywhere, and for me, I like the shot because it you know, you've got the rundown from Kate's. You can see, you know, these guys when they come down, you get to see them at the top, and they gradually come down, and they're coming over every crest in the road. And then as they come closer, the spectators all turn to look, and then they're into that right-hander. But it's the shot of the run to Craig, but it's also the shot of you know, the guy in the army. You know, he's not professional. He's jumped on a bike. He's done most of the work himself, and he's here racing. And you know, top 20 finishes when you're like that. That's pretty special.
Mega.
I think we can probably just nip around. I mean, that's a shot of Michael going around the same. You know, just come around again. You can see how committed they are. They come right the way around on these, and these are heavy machines they're riding. So I think if we go around the wall, you'll see there's Dino on the MV. Italian helmet, painted goggles. You know, they really get into it. I mean, that's probably my favorite of the helmet designs. Yep. And my mate Lee will love you that for his signed TT Picks advert. Lee, you owe me for that one. But you know, this is my job. You know, this is when I say I get to go to special places. This is the Craig. This is me on the inside, so all the spectators get to see on the outside. You get a fantastic view, but I get to sit as these guys come past inches away. I've got my earplugs in. You know, you do this, but you are within touching distance, and it's very special. I'm very honoured to be able to get to sit in these places. Not everybody does, and I am always grateful. And thankful for the opportunities I get, because to get to see the guys racing like this, you know, you get to see them close up. You get to see just how committed they are, knee down, you know, just feathering the throttle, backing it through, looking down the road, picking his exit. You get so much closer, and you generally feel it. But I think there's a couple of shots in a minute. You'll see it's not just me. It's, you know, you come to the TT, you can sit on the hedge, and you know, there they all are. You know, they're sat on the hedge on the exit. There's Michael Rutter. He can see the finish virtually from here. He's ready to go down the hill. And there's the spectators. You know, it's not short circuit. You're not half a mile away from the action watching on a big screen. You know, these guys come past and you sit on the hedge, they sit on the road. Joey Dunlop famously said, you know, there's a grey blur and a green blur, and I tried to keep it on the grey blur. You know, they are right up. They're committed to their ride, and the spectators are there, and you know, you don't just hear them, you feel these guys. You know, you feel the wind, you feel the noise as it comes past. So yeah, it's pretty unique. So that's, for me, that kind of sums up the TT, where you've got the guys committed, but at the same time you've got the spectators that are literally right on your shoulder.
Wow. Okay, so if we, look at that, sun's out. We quickly touch on the pit board though, if we can do the timings.
Yeah,
before we
if you see in the middle, I mean, you know, like I say, it's classics. Even in the TT, you know, it doesn't matter how it is. You've got millions upon millions of pounds spent developing these bikes, and as the guys come around, the best way there is of communicating with them is putting a couple of numbers on a board and hanging it out. You see the guy right in the middle. He's amongst all the spectators. Now these guys are coming down. They've done maybe 33 miles. Are bone jarring, shaking racing. They've got their visors. The visors are covered in oil, in flies, and God knows what else. And then they're picking up the only way the guys can communicate. So here you've got P1. 9 seconds up in, so he's got to pit this lap. So that's a reminder to say you're coming in this lap. 4-lap race, 6-lap race. You might have 2 or 3 plans depending on how you fueled it up, but it's just reminding him when you get to bottom, you're going to come in this lap. It's telling you where you are. It's telling you how far behind the guy behind you. So do you need to keep pushing on? Do you need to extend it? Are you comfortable? Well, you're never really comfortable, but all that information just comes from that board that's being held up. And as he screams past in the middle of all those people of all that color, he's got to pick out that board and read that information and take it on while he's still racing his bike down the hill. So that's, I mean, when it comes to riding and racing, it's the skill levels. It's not just sitting on the seat and twisting the throttle. You know, it's race management. It's being able to know your braking points, to read information like that. Yeah. There's a lot. Most of those people doing the pit boards, a lot of them are just spectators, friends, people they know, they volunteer. Often you'll see on Facebook people saying, is anybody willing to hold the board? And you get, like, you either listen to the radio or you get a text message, and then you set it all up and you hold it out, and you know, that's the information. And it's worked for 50 years and it'll keep on working. It's great.
And then we head over to the slippery conditions. I love this.
Slippery when wet, I think is the phrase. It's yeah, you know, the classics. If the rain comes down, they don't stop. We've got special warning flags here on the island. You know, the marshals communicate with all the riders. They put the flag out. There's a marshal in his hut again. Not every marshal has a hut, by the way. A lot of them are just stood by the road getting wet. But here you go. I think that might even be Shelley Pike. So you've come down. You've come down from the mountain. You've hammered the brakes. You're about a mile away from the finish. You're going to be low on fuel. Your tires are worn. Your brakes are red hot at this point. And you've got a guy out telling you that it's raining, if you didn't already know. So again, you know, it's unique to the island. A lot of time, motorsport, particularly bikes, if the rain comes down, you'll find it stops, but not the classic. Takes a lot to stop these boys. And then they're just coming up there to the hairpin at Governor's. As you come around the hairpin, there you go. Yeah, that's not a lot of fun. You've got Governor's Dip.
How grim it gets down there.
Oh, it's so dark down there. You know, the trees are hanging over. You've got leaves and sap on the road. There's oil. There's, you know, the road doesn't really get used very much. You've got these tiny little tires and wheels compared to what it used to. You've got to pick your way down there on this red hot machine that's got fumes left in the tank. And at the bottom, you've got to crank it over to a left-hander and get the power down as you come up over the top again. A few people haven't got much further than this. You know, this is where you know just how close you are to the end of your fuel. You know, you're tired. You've done everything. You're so close to the end, but you've got to concentrate. You've got to just, you can't let it, you lose concentration for a minute on this slippery kind of surface and it'll have you. So yeah, right the way to the end.
Great. And moving through now to, as they come to the, we've got the finish line? Okay, cool, great.
This is Grand Centre. This is the start finish line. So if you're on a flying lap, if you're not coming into pit, you just head down, straight the way through, ignore everything around you, just keep on going. The one on the right, that's Lee Johnson. He's just crossed the finish line. So, you can see the guys on pit lane, they hang up, they wait for their rider, they'll be hanging over the edge, they'll be waving, they'll be cheering. You cross the line, and at this point you're thinking, where do I pull in? There's the return lane on the left, so you've got to make sure that you're pulling into the return lane, but nobody else is on a different lap. And you won't necessarily know where you finished. The scoreboard's up. If it's a close race, and we've had some close races, you've had like lap after lap after lap. I mean, we'll see. There's a shot of Davo, and it wasn't until the last lap that race was decided, and it's a matter of seconds. And you don't really know at this point. You might have your boards, but if it's close, you don't know if you've got it or not. And you've got to give everything and squeeze it over the line, and then you take that breath out. Then it's kind of right, okay, and you pick the return rows, and you hear the spectators screaming, and you see everybody waving. And if you're on the podium or not, to get this far is an amazing achievement, and they deserve so much respect. But again, you can see it's not just the riders, it's the teams, it's the mechanics, it's the people who just wipe the visor, wipe the bike down. It's the ones who are doing the fuel filling. It's the ones who are just checking it over. It is a team event, very, very much a team event.
Fantastic. I want us to go. If we could, there's Maria again, isn't she? If we can move around to Dom, that would be amazing, because this
on this line,
row of picks, awesome.
For everything we saw on the line, so if you remember back to when I started droning on, all that emotion, all that focus, all that quiet, you don't know what's happening. You're committed. You've got the race in your head, but you don't know. And then you come up the return lane, and if you're in the top three, the guys there, they just steer you into the winner's enclosure. You come down, all the photographers are in front of you, the TV guys are around. You steered to first, second, third. We can't see the scoreboard, so if it's close, we don't know who's won. There's been times when it's just been second, we don't know who's won, and then we get to see it. And you've got spectators. There's winners enclosure, the press are there, and the spectators are just here. Everybody's down, and the winning teams are allowed in. So that's the point where you can let the emotions flow, and it's where you see the mechanics. Here you can see Dom. That's Dom with his other half, and with his mechanic. You can see. Just look at the body language. Just everything is kind of like, it's just elation. It's relief. It's everything that's gone into the build up to that race that only they know. There's quiet times at night when you're worried about different things. You might be worried about sponsors, about the bike, about how you're getting on, about the competitors. Everything now comes out in that one moment. That's it. It's done. The race is done. The result is there, and you are celebrating, and you are thankful, and all the fear and all the worry and all the nerves are just coming out in this. And you get to see people cheering and crying, and just sometimes they just keep holding hands. You just keep people touching each other on the shoulder, just to remind yourself, because you just want to make that contact. And then you'll get the likes of me screaming at you with the camera saying, look this way, smile, and do all this. And you want to celebrate, you want to do that, and it's very, very special. It's where the teams all come together, and everything you've done, here it is. Now you can celebrate. And then in the background, you'll get the other guys just carrying up the return lane, heading back. The top three are here. The rest of the guys are just carrying on up, and everybody cheers. Everybody, every time a bike comes past, all the marshals, all the officials, everybody claps. It doesn't matter where you are. You've finished. But these two shots for me really, really sum up. This is what it's like. Again, think back to that shot at the start with the marshal. He's talking to him. He's giving him his space. They've talked it through. Everything's planned. Now all he can do is just do it, and he's back. He's safe. He's in. He's won. He's done it. He's in this race. He beat his teammate. You're going to win. It's great. Beat your teammates even better. But again, it's this bond. It's like there's Dom, there's Lee. It's a moment you can't get back. You can't describe, and watching it and seeing it. I've seen so many times you get to see people in there. You get to see them with their kids, get to see them with their girlfriends, with their wives, with their husbands. You get to see the real people, and you get to see on their face and in their body language just exactly how they feel. Often, the bike comes in, they'll do a burnout, they'll do this, but sometimes you hear them screaming. They're just, everything is coming out in this relief. It's an amazing experience, just observing it, and what it must be to come in and see a guy waving you in and pointing towards the number one and parking your bike. That must be an experience that I doubt they could probably even describe how it feels. But it's super special.
So we've got two more to finish on. They're two very different pictures, but we've got two very different stories. So if you could, the guy on the left from California, is that right?
Yeah, Jimmy Fireman came over from California, spent months. He was on the 750. He was worried that he would run out of fuel on the last lap and have to have the marshals give him spare fuel, but obviously that wouldn't happen because he'd be disqualified. So that never happened, did it? But where I was stood taking this, I mean, I got to know Jimmy when he was over. We became good friends. We keep in touch. And I'm actually stood opposite the podium. The winners are up on the podium. They're spraying the champagne. They're getting their garlands. So all that's going on, and Jimmy's crossed the line while that's going on, and he's coming up the return lane, and he sort of sees me, and I'm shouting at Jimmy, and thankfully I'm of the right shape and size that he can see me from a long way off. And just he came up, he's number 64. He was right towards the end of the race, but it doesn't matter. Jimmy's life goal was to come and race at the TT. He'd read about the TT. He lives in America. There's nothing like this there. He wanted to come to the Isle of Man, this tiny little place. He didn't really know where it was. He'd read all about the TT. That's his bike. He built it. He brought it over. There was just him. He had like a couple of people he knew who he met on the way, and they were helping with the mechanics, and people were out helping him. He didn't have pit boards or anything, and he came up, and that's Jimmy celebrating to me. I kind of like screamed down at him and waving at him, hoping that he's reckoning it's me, and that's Jimmy. He won. He didn't win the race. He didn't get the garland. He won. He finished. He beat the course. He did what he'd always dreamed. He's riding up the return lane, having finished the race, and for him, it's not about where you finish. It's not about the garlands. He did it. He won more than anything. This is a memory you'll never ever take away. That feeling of riding up that return lane. And again, it's special for me because he's a friend, he's a mate, and I get to see that. And there's me at one end of the lens looking down, and there's him celebrating up to me, and you think, do you know what? We're sharing that moment. It's kind of special. I'm glad I could get it. So when I put the exhibition on, it was one of the pictures I knew I had to get in because it sums up not just the race, but it sums up for me what it's like for me to be a photographer there. Yeah. To capture that emotion, to see friends, to hear the stories, and just see, and even if he hadn't finished, just being here is an amazing achievement. Everything he put into getting here, but he did. He brought it home. He came up, and that was that. It was just incredibly special, and he didn't stop smiling for about 6 months afterwards. But yeah, and I'm glad because, as I say, I was. The chaos of the winners and everything else going on, and people all cheering that way, and I managed to keep on because I'm trying to look across the scoreboard and see where's Jimmy, where is he? He must be due soon, and then I managed to cock him out. I'd hated to have missed it. So again, it's another one of those, just once in a lifetime moments, and yeah, it was pretty special. I was very lucky. So
then moving on to the final one, Steve. Right, this has got to be one of the infamous shots of yours. I mean, there's so many great ones, but this one with Davo, it's stunning, isn't it?
I tell you, you take enough pictures, you got to get lucky sometimes. Yeah. And I was very lucky to get lucky at just the right minute. I mean, I've got two burnout shots that I love most. One's Michael Dunlop 2014, and this one I absolutely love. Dave was such a nice guy. I was stood next to an Australian friend of mine who knows him quite well, and he's screaming in my ear. But you've got this story. It's Alistair put this bike together. He was a train driver. he runs his own train. You know, he stopped. He gave up being a train driver. He became a motorcycle mechanic. He puts his team together. He brings it over here. It's literally in the back of a transit van. It's this tiny little team with this amazing machinery, superbly turned out. You know, he's tuned it. He's prepared it. For 3 out of 4 laps, Davo was second. I think it's about 40 seconds up on the guy in third. Michael Dunlop was wringing the neck off it. Michael Dunlop was out in front, and Dave was a brilliant rider. At this point, he'd never won. He'd come close. He'd had some great rides. He's from Australia. You've come a long way to compete. To compete for this tiny team. He's put a lot of commitment, a lot of trust into Alistair. And Alistair's, you've got one bike. Who do you put it? And again, he's trusting this Australian who's coming over, not getting a chance to practice very much. And then a few miles from the end, Michael's bike stops. He was nailed on. Everybody, they were writing his name on the trophy. But the TT, until you cross that line, it's never over. And Crocknamona, Michael pulls over by Hilbury, and Davo just comes screaming through and cross the line, and all of a sudden he's gone from he's got to protect that second place, and second would have been such an achievement against these big kind of work Suzuki bikes and things like this, and all of a sudden there he is. They guide him. He comes up to lane, they guide him in, and he has won. And you can just see in the smoke, in the fist, he's looking across at the team, at the spectators. That is just pure joy. He was grinning from ear to ear. He was doing selfies with everybody who stood next to him. Every photographer got a selfie with him. His fans, his friends, the spectators. I think there were people on the bus afterwards. He was just stopping people to take a selfie. He is an amazingly nice, down to earth, lovely guy. Alistair's exactly the same. He's so down to earth. I mean, Alistair saw the picture and sort of rang me up, and he's like, and it said, I really like that picture. I'd love to buy it. It doesn't matter what it costs. I really like it. Thank you so much. And the whole conversation was him just saying, thank you for getting this and getting it. Obviously I was the other side. I didn't get to see this. And I'm like, it's yours, mate. Just stick it in the garage, stick it up, all yours, more than happy. It's the story. And it was the story of the race. And for me, it was a perfect way to end the exhibition. It just says everything for me.
Brilliant. We've just shared a couple more comments before we close this off, Steve. We've got Ian Pert saying, great listen to this. A great lad is Steve. And Mike Blackwell says, I thought the idea of the gallery was brilliant. You asked for suggestions for improvement. Get Hayley to interview for the next one. Great to hear the heartfelt enthusiasm from both of you. Thank you. And then BH says, great shot, Steve. In your opinion, which spot around the course is the most spectacular place you've taken photos and that's accessible to the race-going public? Great question.
The pub. Try watching every pub. There's plenty of them around the course. I mean, I get asked this all the time. I get asked, where's the best place to take pictures? Where's the best place to spectate from? If it's your first time, go to the bottom of Bray Hill and stick your head out. I guarantee you will not leave your head out for long. If there are so many places that the best thing is just find some friends. Come over, get comfy, find somewhere you can maybe move around a little bit, and just go and visit with some friends. And it's about the people. I mean, there's so many places. Guthrie's will always be special for me. But again, there are places, there's hedges and fields that I've wandered down to that, I know the guys who own the farm, and you stand there and you stand behind the hedge and you take the shot because you're not allowed further out. And every year it's a challenge to find somewhere different. You don't want to just go back and get the same shots. You want to get different. You want to experience it. You want to show, if you can, show every mile. So the most spectacular, Winners Enclosure, no question. But if you want to enjoy it, the Craig, Guthrie's, they're great places. But you won't find a bad place to watch the TT.
No, never.
There isn't one.
Stafford Evans also said, you'll be unaware that the third place bike in Davo's race is also a solo funded team. Me,
fantastic.
Stafford, just an engineer from Bath. Love that. Great, Stafford.
So there you go. Self-funded, small teams at TT. I mean, I love the electric bikes for the same reason. They're these small teams. The TT is a great leveler. You know, it's about ability, it's about technical ability, not just the riders, but the mechanics and the guys putting it together. And, you know, Stefan, you'd know yourself, you know, the amount of support you must get from friends and family and the commitment you give to do that team. It's a life passion. And everybody who brings a bike here, thank you. You know, I'm a fan. I grew up here. You know, it's in my blood. So I enjoy watching it first. And I'm fortunate to you know, occasionally make a living sort of just getting to share that with other people.
And Roy Moore says, great program and some fine input from Steve with some excellent photographs. Very much appreciated. Seeing family coming up that turn lane is a very special moment that will stay with you forever. Lovely. All right. So just before we say goodbyes, I want to give them a little teaser, Steve. We've been lucky enough for you to share as a little preview of your next exhibition. So we're going to click it up on the screen just before we close off and show them a little teaser, if you will. So thank you for sharing this with us. I'm really excited. So if you could pop it up on the screen for us, that'd be wonderful. It looks absolutely stunning. So what's the name of this exhibition?
So the next one's going to be the summer TT. So this is June. So it'll be June TT. It's slightly bigger. There's going to be more images, a bit more audio, a bit more visual. And this one, so you see there's going to be sections all on the marshals, on the Orange Army. You know, no marshals, no racing. The marshals are amazing characters. They've all got so many stories. And again, last year the marshals got Spirit of the TT, which I think was a fantastic way to recognise their commitment. You know, they're pretty much all volunteers. They come in all weather, all times. They see people at the best and at the worst, and they do an amazing job. So again, I want to show that side. Here you'll see more of the course. You're going to see more of the shots, you know, the grandstand. And I think in the corner there's one of the classic things you'll see at TT. So Michael Dunlop won God knows how many races. I think just over on the right, I think just in that bottom corner, you'll see Michael just sat in his tent, putting the stickers on his bike, cleaning it all off. I mean, you know, you wouldn't see Lewis Hamilton sat in the back of his grandstand, so like, you know, just prepping the Mercedes, but there he is, you know. And that says everything, you know. That's, you know, this guy's doing this and he's about to go out and race and you know, have a very good chance of winning. So again, for me, this is about the story behind the TT. It's hopefully some pictures of bikes that you like, but again, it's going to be maybe things that you don't normally see. So, you know, there's all kinds of different images. There's some famous people. There's, you know, there's Love Island contestants and everything in there. And there's Maria. So, you know, we said before that's Maria competed on the solos and the sidecars. So that's one we put together for Maria especially. There's going to be a whole bunch of sites. So hopefully people will, if you like the classic, hopefully you'll love this one. It's, I don't want to say bigger and better, but it's going to be bigger. You know, there's I mean, the one, this is the John McGuinness wall. This is 2015. This was the year that nobody expected him to win. You can see on the left, you know, he's come in and just the sheer relief. All week that bike had done nothing. You know, he'd been fighting it, and he came in and he won this race. And it, just behind him, you can see his wife and his daughter in the background. And you know, just everything in that picture. You know, there's his mechanic just hanging on to the bike, and he was exhausted. You know, he gave everything to get that in. And then the next picture, I think as a parent, is it's not what you call the greatest TT picture ever. But he came off the bike and there was his daughter just giving this massive hug. You know, this is, you know, well done, Daddy. For anybody who's a parent, for everything you do for your kids to just show that emotion and just show everything. You know, these guys, they are family, man. You know, it's the racing family, it's their own family. But for me, that's one of my favorite shots of all time. You can't see their faces, you know, you can't hear what they're saying, but you just know what they're feeling, and I can really relate to that picture. So that's one I definitely wanted to get in. And then you'll see, you know, there he is after the podium. Doesn't matter how many times you win, you know, surrounded by photographers, surrounded by everything. You know, it's a massive scrum, and there he is, and you can see, you know, that mattered. That means a lot. You know, so yeah, you can win 20 odd TTTs. Everyone matters as much as the rest. So this is kind of what I wanted to say with this next one. This is the story behind the TT. Yeah, there's going to be more shots around the course and things like that, but very much about the story of the people and the story of the TT. So that's what I'm hoping to share this time.
Brilliant. Wow. Well, we're excited. We'll have to get you on here to showcase it. The invite is there. I'm hoping you're going to accept it.
Always a pleasure, Hayley. I love listening to your show. It's fantastic.
Well, you're part of the family now, so.
Anytime.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Great.
anytime. It is a humbling experience to be here, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
No, we really appreciate your time. Kevin Whittle saying, where can I find the app? It's a website, so it's stevebabbphotography.com. There it is. There's the link. John is your little promoter. I love it. All right, brilliant. So Steve, absolutely loved it, and we look forward to having you back on to showcase the next exhibition. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for your spirit, your passion. It's everything that we represent on this platform, and we want to share as what you represent also. So glad you've joined the family, and we look forward to having you back on again soon.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Thanks to every single one of you who's commented, who's joined us in the conversation. We love having you live. If you do know anybody that would enjoy the show on the replay, feel free to share it around, share it in your groups. We want the love to get out there, and we want the conversation to get out there and get them to follow us and come join the live shows as well. All right, so we are live again next week. We have the great Chrissy Rouse talking all things British superbikes. Thanks again. I'm Hayley Coxon. This was Revved Up for the Spirit of Motorsport TV.